There's a silent killer in the U.S. that affects up to 15 million people, including my wife Lisa, who died from a brain aneurysm. And the Lisa Foundation was created to educate the public about brain aneurysms, so it will lead to early detection and successful treatment, and therefore tens of thousands of people in the U.S. will not need to die unnecessarily like she did. She loved what she was doing. She was a natural journalist. She was a very good anchor and reporter.
In Lower Manhattan, Lisa Colagrossi, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
If you ask those two boys, they'll tell you she was the greatest mom that anybody could ask for, and so doted on them, so loving, so caring, put them first, always made sure there was a hot meal on the dinner table, took them to hockey practice. I mean, I don't know how she managed to juggle as many balls as she did because she had so much on her plate, but just one of a kind. She really was. I saw her pull in the driveway around 2:30 in the afternoon, and she was walking up the steps to the front door, and I saw her clutch her head. And I got up from my chair to greet her as she opened the door, and the first words out of her mouth as she was holding her head were, "I have the worst headache of my life." And at that time I said, "Lisa, don't you think that we should do something about this and go get your head checked, because you've been complaining of these headaches now for several weeks and you describe them the exact same way, and I'm really concerned." And she said, "I don't have time between everything I have to do at work and everything I have to do here at home with you and the boys." She said, "I'll go upstairs, take a Motrin, and it'll be fine." And I let it go. I didn't persist. And my lack of persistence and pushing it and taking her by the arm and putting her in the car and driving to the emergency room will live with me till the day I die, because I feel like I didn't do my job. She died because of me. The next day it was beginning the March Madness basketball NCAA tournament. So the last picture she ever took on her iPhone was of our youngest son, Evan. She posted on Facebook and made a comment that her house officially had March Madness and her little bracket master had selected who he thought was going to win. And the next day she called the house before I took the boys to school as she did every morning, to say good morning to them, to tell them how much she loved them. She did text back and forth with our oldest son from school on a few things and sent him, smiley face emojis and hearts. And that was the last thing that she ever did. Coming out of my business meeting about 9:15, and I get a call from a well-known neurosurgeon saying that they had Lisa. She had gone into cardiac arrest, and I said, "You need to check her head." When I got there, they kind of sat me down and said the next 5-6 hours are going to be critical. And then they walked me into the room where she was, and I knew it. I looked at her and I said, "It's not 5-6 hours, it's done. It's done." And they confirmed that about maybe an hour later. And then my attention turned to, how I was going to share the news with the boys. The other vivid memory that will be lasting is, walking up the steps to the house with Lisa's mom and sister in tow, who had flown in, that day, and seeing the boys, in the TV room, jumping up and down, watching the basketball games, expecting their mom and dad to walk in and join them, and to walk in and see probably my face and their grandmother and aunt with me, and they knew something was very wrong. I couldn't save Lisa, but through the work that we've done through the foundation, we have been credited with saving a number of lives in the U.S. Her spirit lives on through the people that the foundation has helped save. An aneurysm is a weakening of one of the walls of an artery in the brain that can bulge outward over time, much like a car tire or bike tire, and rupture. And when brain aneurysms rupture, they are highly fatal, very deadly. Anywhere between 2 and 5% of the U.S. population, which is the equivalent of up to 15 million people in the U.S. Women are 50% more likely to develop than men. African Americans and Hispanics, 25 to 30% more likely than other ethnic populations. And there are somewhere between 40 and 50,000 ruptures each year estimated. And of those who experience a rupture like Lisa did, over 70% either die or are permanently incapacitated. So it's a very deadly condition. There are warning signs: worst headache of life, stiffness of neck, sharp pain above or behind one of your eyes, nausea, paralysis. And if you're experiencing one of the warning signs, get to the hospital. Dial 911, seek emergency medical attention. Don't delay it, don't dismiss it like we did. The biggest risk factors are smoking, hypertension, high blood pressure, drug, alcohol abuse, family history of brain aneurysms in first or second generation of your family. But Lisa did not have any of those. They did not apply to her, and they don't apply to many people who develop brain aneurysms. So there's a lot more that we need to do to understand and research brain aneurysms. The title of the email was "You Saved My Sister's Life." She told the story about how she heard me talking about Lisa's story, and the next day her sister called her from the doctor's office and just to chat, was in there to be seen for a sprained wrist, and she said, I have the absolute worst headache of my life. And her sister, who had heard me on the Glenn Beck show, said, I just heard this guy yesterday. His wife said the exact same thing about her headache, and she ended up dying. She said, you have to promise me that when you see the doctor, you're going to tell him that you have the worst headache of your life, that you don't normally get headaches. And she did. 3 weeks later, had a craniotomy, and while they were in there, they actually found the second one that they clipped off as well. So that's our first survivor, Chris, and she'll always be front and center as kind of the poster child for the Lisa Foundation.